Today we are going over why Texas and Arch Manning face higher and more pressure than anyone else in college football for the 2025 season.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blunder, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blunder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.
Welcome back to the show. The last 2 years, Texas has been right on the doorstep. They were right there against Washington, a possession where a touchdown at the end of that game would have put them in the national championship game. The ball is in their hands. It's in Quinn's right hand with a chance to win that game. Last year against the Ohio State Buckeyes, they have the football. They have it on the 1 yard line, first and goal, and are unable to punch it in and score to tie that game when they had all of the momentum with them to go out there, score with a chance to punch their ticket to the national championship game. So Ewers, Sark, the past 2 years, they've been right there. Why have they not been able to get over the hump? And don't think for a second that the young prospects watching that, the kids that are from Texas, that are huge fans of the Texas Longhorns, we're not seeing them struggle to be able to close out and win those football games, especially taking note that Quinn Ewers just got taken in the 7th round of the 2025 NFL draft. He had first round talent, like his left tackle, Kelvin Banks, was drafted. He had played with Xavier Worthy previously. He had played with Matthew Golden, a first round wide receiver. He'd played with A.D. Mitchell in these seasons. He'd played with a drafted running back in Jaden Blue and a drafted tight end in Gunnar Helm. All of these players. And the defensive side that they had the talent, Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba, a number of very good football players on those teams, but still unable to get into the national championship game. So the keys to this car, the Ferrari that is the Texas Longhorn football program, now no longer a Honda. This thing is a full-fledged supercar, and it goes to Arch Manning. And unfortunately for him, he's expected to improve upon the past 2 years of success, except for losing a lot of that star talent that we just talked about. He necessarily won't have that left tackle, that right tackle on Cameron Williams, and some of those superstars that they had lost on the defensive side of the football to keep them in football games like when they're getting thrashed by the Georgia Bulldogs. The future of the quarterback position is at stake at Texas because if Arch doesn't pan out, his frame, his athleticism, his family pedigree, that Manning last name, then what are you going to be with the Texas Longhorns? How are you going to make it work if you're not 6'4", if you're not 225 pounds, if you're not a very athletic kid, if you don't have the pedigree of uncles that had won Super Bowls and will be in the Hall of Fame for the National Football League? The good news is for Arch and for Texas currently that the biggest competition in the SEC, the Alabama Crimson Tide, just lost a starting quarterback, Jalen Milroe. Georgia just lost a starting quarterback, Carson Beck, to Miami in the transfer portal. And Tennessee, another college football playoff team, they just lost their starting quarterback to the transfer portal. Iamaleava leaves to go to UCLA. And so in that second tier, teams like LSU with Garrett Nussmeier, teams like South Carolina with Lenora Sellers, teams like Florida with DJ Lagway, you wouldn't consider those to be the top elite teams. Those might be the best quarterbacks in the conference right now next to Arch, but they are not in that crop that you would consider to be the elites, which alternatively is exactly why he is put right back into the pressure cooker, because if the elite teams don't have great quarterbacks, then Arch is going to be considered to have to. It's going to be necessary for him to elevate that program and continue the success that they have been building off of as they barrel towards the start of the 2025 season. No one cares that they are staring down the barrel of a gauntlet of road games. Starting the season with a road game in the shoe at the Ohio State Buckeyes, playing the two best players in college football, Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. Might have a new quarterback there. You still have to compete against the two most talented players, arguably, in the country. They have to go and play DJ Lagway in the swamp in Gainesville, Florida, and play that Gator football team. They have to play Gunnar Stockton and the Georgia Bulldogs on the road in Athens against Georgia. So you can understand that of those three, maybe the best quarterback is DJ Lagway, but Florida is a team that if you're Texas that you're going to be expected to beat. You're the favorite to win the Southeast Conference. So why does all of this matter? It's because if we look at history and we're able to spot patterns, we know an early win has occurred for the Texas Longhorns in each of the past two college football seasons. Let's go back to that 2023 season. Do we remember a game in Tuscaloosa where Texas went in there and they pounded the football late in the fourth quarter, even after Brett Auburn had missed a big field goal, and they beat the Alabama Crimson Tide and came up with the biggest win in years for that program? What about in the 2024 season where they knocked off the national champs in the Big House in Ann Arbor? And they beat Michigan, thrashed them, threw them around, one of the most physical teams in football, made them look like they didn't deserve to be on the same football field. Well, both of those wins gave Texas some air to be able to breathe, that if they were in tight games, they wouldn't have to necessarily be as nervous. Ended up in each of those years losing big games in the middle of the season. 2023, they wound up losing Red River and a heartbreaker to Dylan Gabriel in Oklahoma. Same thing, 2024, they end up losing to Georgia. But if we look at the consistencies in some of those seasons that we know, Texas in 2023 was able to survive against a team like Kansas State when they went to overtime. Last year, after that big win against Michigan, even after they had lost to Georgia, they still were able to fend off teams like Vanderbilt, who had beaten Alabama, like Arkansas, who had beaten Tennessee, able to pull those games out, those tight wins, because they had that win early in the season that they were able to fall back on. If you lose a game earlier in the year and you lose a middle one, you are playing with all of your back, your entire back against that wall, and things get pretty nerve-wracking pretty quick. But with that one loss now, you can get into the college football playoff with 2 losses. We all know that. So if you think that game last year against Michigan wasn't a momentum booster for them and it didn't help Texas whatsoever, yeah, you are kidding yourself. That team with all that first-round talent, Colston Loveland, 10th overall to the Bears, Mason Graham, 5th overall to the Jaguars. Will Johnson drops to 47, but still one of the best cornerbacks, defensive backs in college football. Kenneth Grant goes 13th overall to Miami Dolphins. All of that NFL talent, a team that had won the Natty. Texas winning that game was a huge deal and a confidence booster. So this is all to say that Texas at the start of next year with that game on the road against the Ohio State Buckeyes, all of it points to that game being pivotal, that Arch needs to show up and bring his A-game, that if they don't win it, that he looks pretty darn good, that there is confidence he's going to be able to carry them throughout the regular season. Because if he doesn't and they lose and it doesn't look good, my goodness, this is going to look a whole lot different. And you can see why. Just because of those steps, because of those bullet points I just laid out, how those wins early in the season on the road against previous very good football teams had ended up helping them. Because those road games later in the year at Athens, in Gainesville, you know they're going to be prime time. You know Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit are going to be on those broadcasts, and the crowds are going to be absolutely nuts. So Texas, because of those reasons that we laid out throughout this video, have more pressure than anyone. And again, previously I had broke down a video about why the quarterback position at Texas, and that means the entire program's future might be in jeopardy because Quinn Ewers ends up going into the 7th round as he was once considered a perfect prospect, and we know that ends up being a concern for prospects, maybe dreaming of going to Texas, but might be concerned with what it will mean for their stock, if it's the best place for them to go, if they want to be a high quarterback draft pick with the hopes of starting in the National Football League. So I appreciate you so much for sticking around and watching this entire video. If you think that none of this makes sense, let me know in the comments, but I assure you that this is all backed up and really was a lot of fun to make. And again, Texas program has been very fun to cover and to watch the last couple of seasons with them being extremely relevant, but things are going to be heating up in Austin. Again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the show.